Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Well, there I am. Hello, everyone. Ron is here. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day's a great day. Not to be in a cult. And who is in a cult, guys? Well, there's a man. His name's Little Tommy Cruise. And okay, I'll tell you what video we're doing today. There's sort of like, I feel like there's like three different types of, oh, Mike. Uh-oh. Microphone. What's going on here? Is that a little better, you guys? All right. Welcome back. Here's what we're doing today. There's kind of three different types of videos in general that I kind of do. One is just topical Scientology-related videos, relatively short. Then there's Q&A videos where I answer questions. And when I do those types of videos, it's very common to answer the same types of questions over and over and over again, which is totally fine. That's just the nature of new people constantly coming to the channel, watching videos, and you always have new people coming through the live chat and asking questions, and that's fine. What I find really interesting is to find out what questions people have who've already watched a ton of Scientology content, whether it's documentaries, whether it's TV shows, or whether it's hundreds or thousands of hours of Scientology content on YouTube. And one of those people who I know has watched tons and tons and tons of content is Marilyn Honig. And we did a video a number of weeks ago where it was really just her asking me questions that she still had about Scientology after being around the space for so much time. And that was a lot of fun. And I asked her, well, I wanted to do another one of those videos with her. And she put together some topics for us to discuss, and I'm going to describe them for you here. So it says, taking a look at the process of becoming a good Scientologist. Where does it begin? How is it presented to the new recruit? And does it progress? How does one eventually become a fanatic like Tom Cruise? Steve Hassan describes the steps of gaining control over one's mind. 1, unfreezing. 2, changing. 3, refreezing. And then she provides some details on what these three steps mean. So I figured it would be a lot of fun for us to have this conversation together. And so here she is, everyone. Marilyn Honig.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I just realized we should have worn black turtlenecks.
We should have. I don't own a black turtleneck.
I don't either. Oh, well, we'll have to get it. We'll have to get one. We'll be fanatics after this.
Yes, indeed. You know what? I totally forgot to bring up your channel here. We are, by the way, streaming to both of our channels. And let me at least bring yours up and show everyone what it is.
Shout out to all the mods on both channels.
What is wrong with my screen share? Hold on, I've got to get this figured out. View tab, bridge, share this one. Coffee, share this one. Oh, here it is. Why can't I see it? Okay.
Oh, I tried adding it to stage. I added it to stage.
Interesting. We are in mine though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't added to the stage. Okay, good. Thank you. You clarified that for me.
Okay.
Woo!
Yeah.
All right, I'm slow this morning. Okay. So I'm gonna, because you put these questions together, and I really want you to guide, like I'm going to answer the questions. I'm going to do give you the best I've got, but let's have you guide what it is you want to know, really.
Okay. Yeah. So, we all see how people like Tom Cruise, or even the people that we see coming out of the orgs and the testing centers and stuff that have been indoctrinated. A lot of them have been born into it or raised in it or indoctrinated for a long, long, long time. But I just wanted to, because something about Scientology that fascinates me is it really is like mapped out for you. And a lot of cults that I know of are kind of more at the cult leader's whim. And there isn't a lot of writing except for sacred texts, such as, the Bible that they twist and different things. So it's really interesting to me. Like we kind of have been skipping around. Like we talked about what was it called? The lower conditions. And that's one aspect of the tools of mind control tools that Scientology uses. But I was thinking of like, how does it become like the frog boiled slowly? And, I've been thinking a lot about the principles that in combating cult mind control that Stephen Hassan, who is a cult expert, he's an ex-Mooney, and he really, has helped me to understand and unlock a bunch of these concepts that I fell into in my cult, which was a Pentecostal cult called Door of Hope. It was charismatic, fundamentalist, and IBLP, which is the Duggar cult. So I've noticed, we've talked about this before. There's a lot of similarities, but Scientology has its own, own nomenclature, its own structure. So that's why I asked you to pull up the Bridge to Total Freedom. And you said there's two sides, right? So there's one where it's kind of the entry level. And I wanted to kind of go through that just a little bit and maybe explain how Scientology is presented to the new fresh meat?
Raw meat.
Raw meat. Yeah. And what's the process? And I thought we could just maybe start here, and then if we did other streams in the future, we can build on that.
Yeah.
Just go back to the beginning.
So it's funny, you have this entire bridge here, and the left side of the bridge is the training, which means courses, and the right side of the bridge is the auditing. And the introductory routes are actually the very, 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 very bottom. I'm trying to my MacBook trackpad is not being incredibly cooperative. Okay, so these are the Dianetics and Scientology introductory services. It's funny because some of these aren't even offered anymore.
Really?
So, and almost all of the courses you will hear someone do at the introductory level fall into these three categories. Success through communication, life improvement courses. There's like 16 or 17 different life improvement courses. Those are like $50, $100. They can be done in a few days. Personal efficiency is another introductory course.
So at this point, it's basic self-help, right? And it's life improvement. Are they finding your ruin, or is that just from the personality test that some people take? Because you don't have to take a personality test to get into Scientology, right?
You don't have to. It is one of the most common things that they have you do in the beginning, because they use that as part of the sales process. So finding someone's ruin is actually just part of the sales technique. There's not actually a course that finds your ruin. There's not an auditing action that finds your ruin. It's the registrar that's supposed to find your ruin. And that's just in the process of interviewing you and talking to you. And that's actually where the personality test comes in, is having you do that test and having it look all scientific and official and having a graph to be able to talk to you about the results of it. The personality test is really just a crutch to get you to open up about things about yourself, to start talking about things about yourself, so the registrar can try to find your ruin, and it's called and ruin you, make you feel, oh my God, my life is shit, I have no hope for the future. And he goes, Scientology can help you with that. You go, it can? Are you sure? Well, there was one of the Scientology films where this is sort of being demonstrated. It's this typical thing of a female registrar trying to sell a course to a young man and convincing him it'll help him with girls. And he's like, you think this will help me talk to girls?
And she's probably a hot chick, and he's probably like, maybe I can talk to you.
She's like an older woman, a hot older woman.
Well, something like, presenting it as a personality test. Okay. That in itself sounds normal. Right. And I'm sure they don't say, let's find your ruin, because that's weird. That doesn't really sound normal, like, just start to talk to somebody, and what are your strengths and weaknesses, or whatever, or what some things you can improve. Scientology can help you with that. All that sounds normal. When does it start to, like, I'm just wondering, okay, the thing with, you come in and you're frozen into who you are, right? You're just you, right? They want to find your buttons, your ruin, whatever, to start to break you down and do that unfreezing so that they can prepare you to receive the indoctrination. So, you know what I mean? So how does that start? I mean, I know this could take 6 hours talking about this, but
Yeah.
what do you think is the main thing that they use to start to just draw you in where it's like, gotcha?
So let's try to define it a little bit first, because first of all, any Scientologist in the world would immediately object to the idea that anyone's trying to break anyone down in any way. And I would argue a lot of former Scientologists might even be like, "Oh, that's not really what we do." But let's just talk about what the words that we're using here mean. So, and I'm just reading from your email. So
Mhm.
Steve Hassan says there's step one, unfreezing, which means breaking a person down, making them ready to receive cult indoctrination. And then
Mhm.
you ask, what are the first steps in Scientology that achieve this, such as finding your ruin, training routines, purification rundown, etc. Okay, so breaking a person down, making them ready to receive cult indoctrination. That is quite honestly something that is done in that initial registrar interview. It is finding someone's ruin. Now, you're right. They would never, ever use that language as far as
Right.
let's find your ruin. But the language I think that you would see in those interviews is the registrar trying to get the person to basically spill that something is in some way, shape, or form ruining their life. And you might even have the registrar asking them questions like, it looks you're really bad in communication. I imagine this must be ruining your life.
Right.
And then seeing what they say until there's some sort of an agreement. I'm sort of just, I'm seeing how this could match up with the idea of breaking a person down, making them ready to receive cult indoctrination.
Mhm.
Yeah, you are putting them into a frame of mind where you're almost like, yes, it's true. Yes, this is my biggest fear is I'm just always afraid I'm never going to achieve my full potential. I'm just going to end up like my father. And
Right.
it's like, and you see, okay, this really is something they are stressing about. It sounds like an exaggeration, but to some degree is ruining their life. And they're looking for something that will solve this problem for them. And that is like the tagline in a Scientology registrar interview is Scientology can help you with that. And this is in the Div 6 introductory level reg
Right.
interviews. It's completely
Right.
different for major courses. This is the introductory registrar. Scientology can help you with that. Scientology can help you with that. That is the pattern for going through that personality test is this thing here is low and Scientology can help you with that. This thing here is low and Scientology can help you with that. Oh, it looks like you're really good on this and Scientology can even help you with that. So it's funny, and I don't remember ever seeing any language in any of the training materials. And I was never on that post. That was never my job in an org. I was never a registrar. But you do still read some of the materials that govern those posts. And like I've never seen this language in Scientology as far as breaking a person down. But it
Right.
does seem to me that the phrase finding their ruin or ruining them,
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of sounds like breaking someone down, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I remember Doug Kramer from Days But Not Confused saying that he didn't even really know there was much wrong with him. I mean, I'm sure, yeah, you have problems, right? But oh my God, I didn't know I have a reactive mind. I didn't know that I'm this screwed up, right? And it's like cults tend to, find your ruin or assign you a problem. Like, they'll give you a problem and then they'll be like, we can fix it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like they don't just tell you that off the street that you're bad, and they don't really preach, they don't really teach that you're bad. See, I'm using my indoctrination words, but I guess the process in itself is like the same because you come in as a person that you are, right? And they want to maybe breaking you down is, I mean, I didn't use it. Stephen Hassan did, but at least stripping you of your own identity in order to become the quote Thetan that you want to be or that you should be. You know what I mean?
I was just reminded of the big Les Dane. Les Dane is the guy who wrote the Big League Sales Closing Techniques or Big League Sales Surefire Closing Techniques, something like that. And in that book, the main idea is that every buyer walks in wearing a brick overcoat, an overcoat made of bricks, and that is their sales resistance. And the salesperson's job is to break through their brick overcoat of sales resistance. And it's a very similar concept. I mean, we're essentially talking about sales, and it's whether you're selling a car or whether you're selling a course at the introductory levels of an international multi-billion-dollar family destroying human trafficking.
Get them saying yes. Get them saying yes. Like, don't you want, to be able to talk to girls? Yes. Blah, blah, blah. Yes. Do you want to take this course? Yes. It's only $50. Okay. Yes. And then it's like you say you yes yourself to OT8 where you're completely ruined.
There you go. That's how it happens.
Now, at what point, okay, so you take the introductory course. At what point are you doing things which I think are part of the breaking down of somebody, for lack of a better term, making you uncomfortable, making you receive things that most normal people would not readily do, like the TRs, being screamed at and insulted and all that. The thought of sitting in a sauna for an hour freaks me out. I can't imagine 5 hours, you know? So how does that happen?
Everyone's individual experience on this path is going to be different. And so there's not one answer, but when someone gets into the introductory course room, they're supposed to be allowed to continue to stay in the introductory course room doing introductory services for as long as possible. They're not supposed to be rushed onto major services. They almost always end up getting rushed onto major services because orgs are so desperate for stats, and there's just no one getting into Scientology. There's always a rush. Everything's urgent. But I'm just trying to give you the best answer possible. And they're supposed to be able to cook in the Div 6 course room for as long as possible. And there's like 16, 17, there's probably 25 different they could stay in there for a year or two. And that never happens, but it could happen. And it's kind of supposed to be in some cases. You kind of
get comfy, right? I mean, you're like, oh, this is great. I don't know what their problem is on, that are criticizing Scientology because this is helping me, right? It's helping me talk to girls. It's helping me communicate. Okay. I get it.
And it's almost like the longer it's almost like the longer they stay in that course room doing stuff that's not crazy, it's not too high gradient, they would say in Scientology, the better, because it accomplishes this thing that you're talking about, which is how does this process happen? Well, the slower it happens, the better, because then it's more natural, right? And so all the introductory courses it's really just common sense stuff. Like that's one of the reasons you want them to stay there as long as possible. Like, because then they're like, oh, this is Scientology. I don't see what the big deal is. And you're like, well, that's introductory Scientology, but okay.
Right.
And, the people in the introductory areas, the service areas, are supposed to be very friendly, attractive, very, clean, presentable, well-dressed. I mean, these days they all wear uniforms. And they're also what they call a public personality, a Div 6 personality. They're also trying to make you feel good about yourself. They're very complimentary. I've heard the word love bombing. The word love bombing I don't know where the word comes from. But I never heard that word in Scientology. And I wonder, were you ever under the impression that that's actually a word Scientologists use? Or is it a word?
I never heard of it either until I came out of my cult and realized, and in learning about it, that's what they did in my cult as well. That they never told you what was going to happen to you, Right.
Right.
Yeah, they were just like,
of course, I'm familiar. Yeah, of course, I'm familiar with the word from the anti-cult space, but I just don't know where the word comes from.
That's all I know it as. Yeah, they're not. I've never heard of it. Like, oh, I'm going to love bomb you. No, that's not really something.
So that is essentially what they're doing, though. They're making you feel really good about yourself, really complimentary, and the idea is to make the org a pleasant place to be, and to make the person's experience that Scientologists are extremely pleasant, positive, uptone, happy, energetic people. And that's the kind of person that Scientology creates. And so, like I said, all those courses, common sense stuff, we could almost I don't know if you want to even bring up the list of courses. I don't know if that doesn't answer
you can if you want.
But your question was, how does it start breaking you down? But you see, you've already kind of been broken down by the time they got you into the course. If by breaking down, we mean making them ready to receive cult indoctrination. And all of that material is pretty much the same type and the same level of material. They do start introducing concepts like the suppressive person, the antisocial personality, the potential trouble source. They start introducing concepts like overts and withholds, which is doing destructive acts and then withholding that you've done them. They start introducing the idea on how these things affect your life and how Scientology can fix that. Of course, on the Dianetics course, they start introducing the concept of engrams. And now one interesting thing during this whole process is that contrary to what you said a few minutes ago of they don't start by telling you that you're bad. They're doing the exact opposite. What you're being told is that you are good. You are natively good. There's nothing about you that's natively bad. There's nothing about anyone that's natively bad. And anything that you feel is bad about yourself is stuff that's been added on top that Scientology can help remove. And that not only are you basically good, you're basically all powerful and godlike.
Yeah.
And that's the top of the bridge. And you're all the way down here. But up here is the state of full operating thetan. Oh, is Tom Cruise full operating thetan? Yes. Well, Tom Cruise is
Why,
OT8.
yes, he is.
Tom Cruise is OT8, but full operating thetan is way up here, and those levels aren't released yet.
When do they introduce the concept of the reactive mind?
Oh, I mean, it could be day one. One
Okay.
of the introductory courses could be Dianetics.
Okay. So I'm going to slightly disagree with you on something, which I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm just going to disagree with you anyways, because it's fun. Okay. Now you said that they tell you, and this is part of the cognitive dissonance, I think they tell you you're good, but then they tell you there's something in you, inside of you that's bad. And that's that reactive mind. So you're already being kind of split. Like with me, it was demons and it was your sin nature. There's something in you, like there's this turmoil. So setting up an enemy is so like classic cult tactics, because you're at war within yourself. You can't trust your own thoughts. You can't trust your own instincts. You have to depend on the cult to tell you how to think and what's the next step. So again, it's like, it's like the bondage, like putting the chains on. And I think you're right. If they bring that out in the beginning, then it's just lock, stock, and barrel after a while. And the other thing, I was thinking the other things that you were talking about withholds and overts and all that shit. Confessionals, that is something, and I'm not saying that, like just mainstream confessions, Catholics or whatever, I'm not picking on them. I'm saying when it becomes a way to control you, a way to get you to tell them your secret so they can use it against you, Yeah, and just the self-division and all that, and the snitch culture, confessions, all that stuff, telling you about that suppressive person, so you're looking around, like all of a sudden you're alone. You can't trust yourself, and you can't trust anybody else.
You can trust the Scientologists. Okay, so the thing about the reactive mind is that the way that's explained in Scientology is explained in a way where it's not in you or a part of you. It's not you. That there's you, the thetan, there's your body, and then there's your mind. And your mind is separate from you and separate from your body. And the mind has an analytical part and a reactive part. And even in all of the diagrams in the courses, they're three separate things. And you're still told you are basically good. And all people are basically good. And all of your doubts and insecurities and pains and whatever come from your reactive mind. And Dianetics and Scientology, Dianetics can get rid of your reactive mind, and Scientology can help in other ways. So, is that different than the way like demons are explained to you?
Yeah, I think demons would be more like the body thetans later on that you don't know about in the beginning.
Mm.
And it all depends on what sect you are in of cults, fundamental Christianity, whatever, in my experience. And excuse me, as far as like, there's no equivalent I can think of to the reactive mind per se, but they have something called the flesh, the sin nature, which is basically like the devil on your shoulder, like whispering things to you that are bad and that are not in the quote will of God. So it's very subjective, because how do you really know? How do you know what's your reactive mind, or how do you know what is your your sin nature, or your quote flesh, they call it, or a demon, or your own, or God, or whatever. With us, it was like we weren't our own God. So we weren't really allowed to have our own thoughts. It was either God's thoughts, or it was the sinful thoughts, or the demon thoughts. So you needed to have God thoughts all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, very weird, because you had to quote empty yourself. So they would tell you they were breaking you down. They would tell you you were being broken as if it was a good thing. Yeah.
Wow. Scientology would never, ever say that. Because it's all about the way they think about themselves and what they're doing, and they think about Scientology. Again, it comes down to Scientology's tagline. They specifically say, we are here to make the able more able. So they're already telling you when you walk in the door that the fact that you even could sense something inside of you was attracted to and sensed the truth and the power of Scientology and Dianetics, that you even walked in the door, you're already in the upper 10th of the upper 10th of the most intelligent people on this planet.
You're special.
I mean, that's the opposite of trying to break someone down.
Right. But they
then
lie.
They still got to break you down.
They lie. So it's like, let's pump you full of dangerous amounts of vitamins and whatever, and throw you in a sauna and charge you all this money, and make it like it is kind of like an MLM. It's like more and more and more and more, and like, I don't know. I think that when do the training routines come in? That really fascinates me too.
So that's one of the introductory courses can be success as the introductory version of all of the TRs, the training routines, which are Scientology's communication drills. So they break each TR into multiple sets, like instead of just being TR, so like instead of just being TR1, it'll be like TR1A, TR1B, things like that, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B. I mean, they break them down so there's more of them. So you're doing little parts of each one. But everything you've ever heard described as Scientology's TRs from 0 to 4 it is on that course. It's just done at a lower gradient of toughness. And so, yeah, you could walk into an introductory course room and somebody could be doing bull baiting, where one person is sitting there in a chair and their coach is, one person's sitting there in a chair, hands on their knees, sitting straight up and not moving or flinching or anything. And the coach is doing or saying things. You're not supposed to physically touch the person. Sometimes you do. You're not supposed to be inappropriate with them physically. But you're supposed to yell. You're supposed to call them names. You're supposed to push their buttons. You're supposed to make fun of them. And even as a course supervisor, I was always incredibly uncomfortable with any bull baiting being done around brand new people, because you're like, how do we explain? Like, if you have to explain why we're doing it, yes, it can be explained. But it's like, it's one of those weird things where when you're in your own bubble, you're like, yeah, it's totally normal. And then when someone brand new pokes in, that's almost like a test, is like, oh, I'm so embarrassed right now.
Well, it's like me inviting one of my friends to church when I was a teenager, and everybody's raising their hands and going, I'm gonna be healed in the name of Jesus, and throw you on the floor. It's like, to me, I was just used to it. My friend would be like, I'm out of here. Goodbye.
Yeah.
But somebody said,
like, Dave, could you imagine a Div 6 person getting a tour of the org? We've got David Santiago, who's a staff member who always comes up to bull bait. He takes off his tie, he wraps it around his head like Rambo, and he rolls up his arms and he pretends to be going down on the woman that he's bull baiting. And could you imagine someone walks by the course room giving a tour and they're like, what in the hell is going on in there? I thought this was a church, ma'am.
Oh my God.
And so you wouldn't see that kind of bull baiting happening in the introductory course room,
Right.
but you would see that kind of bull baiting happening in the major course room.
That's so violating. Yeah. I mean, eventually I want to talk about like the touch assist and all that stuff, but that's why I wanted to kind of roll it back and just start from the beginning, because yeah, how do these people get sucked into this? And like you said, it's kind of a slow thing, whether they come in off the street doing the personality test, which thank goodness a lot of the protesters have shut that shit down in many cities. So happy for that. But you know, there's what the professional route, where they have like some kind of business model where they kind of sell that and get people into Scientology that way.
Oh, the business consulting groups?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
like, I'm kind of rolling it back to the recruitment. How do they get people in to start to do this stuff?
So that's a whole different route though into Scientology. Did you want me to explain that?
I don't know if you want. I mean, I'm just thinking of different facets of different types of people and walks of life and tactics they use to get people into this, kind of course room situation. I know we're kind of going back to the beginning, but
let's stick for a little bit on the introductory route and how someone starts to get cooked or whatever. And I guess I wonder if you and I agree on this. Do we? Because I don't want to mischaracterize what it is that Steve Hassan represents in these 3 steps as far as unfreezing. Let's go through unfreezing, changing, and refreezing.
Okay.
So step 1, unfreezing, breaking a person down, making them ready to receive cult indoctrination. Step 2, changing. Indoctrination is introduced. Okay. 3, refreezing. Building someone's new artificial cult identity. Black and white thinking, all or nothing. Everyone's against them, cognitive dissonance.
Xenoized.
The xenoized. I would argue that the refreezing, the changing and the refreezing, that's happening right from the first introductory courses. I feel like the breaking a person down is happening in the registration interview.
Interesting.
Because you don't really have to ruin someone every time they finish a course and you're trying to get them onto the next one. At that point, you're already sort of building up their new artificial cult identity with every new course that they do, even at the Div 6 level.
Didn't you say that? Well, maybe this was because you were in the Sea Org, but training routines were part of each step of the way, right? Did you have to do training routines all the time, or did I mishear you?
So for Sea Org members who are on technical posts, whether it's supervisor or auditor, particularly auditor, but various technical posts, sometimes like auditors, for example, in many orgs, many auditors, especially in Sea Org orgs, are doing TRs every single day, even if it's just to get ready for the day, or even it's for the latest correction short correction they had to do from the last auditing session that they had. Sometimes course supervisors would, at various times, it's not always true every day for everyone, just do TRs just for the heck of it. But it's not true that all Scientologists just do TRs like a Christian might just pray every day before bed. It's
okay.
Not
all right. Gotcha. Yeah.
But the TRs are done. Are you mentioning the TRs because it seems to be in people's minds is what's like a major indoctrination in Scientology?
Yeah, almost like someone said, desensitization. It's like, screaming in your face, having you have to be like just deadpan, right? And have your TRs in or whatever. Like that to me makes me feel like it's somebody just shutting down, like almost like desensitization and even disassociation.
Okay, let me explain it this way and let me know what you think about it. So there's something in Scientology that I'm guessing might get conflated. And and I'm just kind of like working through this right now. So let's put TRs aside for the moment, and let's talk about the C organization and how what you're expected to put up with, and the relationship you're expected to have with your superiors, where you're not allowed to backflash, you're not allowed to talk back, right? or a desensitization. So like on a Sea Org level, if you've got a junior and you've got a senior, and the senior is screaming at the junior is, I guess, to some degree expected to be able to be desensitized to that and to be able to take it, to keep their TRs in. But you're not doing TRs so that you can get used to having your senior scream at you. Like let's now take, so that's a Sea Org kind of life, the lived experience of being a Sea Org member. One could take away that the purpose of the TRs is so that you don't think it's abuse when people are screaming at you and humiliating you and belittling you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now let's just take a normal public Scientologist. A normal public Scientologist would do the exact same TRs on their professional TRs course that a Sea Org member would do. But a normal public Scientologist would be looking to do these TRs so that things in life, if someone was screaming at them or whatever, that they're not getting flustered to the point where they're not losing control of themselves. So there's a difference.
I mean, they don't go live and cry for 2 hours like I did. Those damn Pentecostals crying all the time.
So I just don't want to conflate being able to experience something without losing your cool with being expected to put up with something. Those are actually two different things.
Right. Okay.
The Sea Org is where, and staff is where you are put in a situation where you just have to put up with that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I just don't want to conflate that culture with the purpose of the communication drills.
Right. I guess if you know what you're getting yourself into, and that's the quote purpose, then I could see the reasoning behind it. But I think in everyday life, I mean, especially if children are I know a lot of you second gens have told me that as a child, you had to do these training routines.
Yes.
To me, they sound very, very damaging. I mean, I think your job as a parent is to protect your child as long as you can from these abusive things,
I agree.
Because it is very damaging. So
I totally agree. And I think, because I absolutely 100% agree that when you have children doing professional level training routines, TRs, training drills, it is completely inappropriate.
What do you mean by professional level? Like that makes it sound legit.
Well, it's called the professional TRs course.
Okay.
So the Success Through Communication course is introductory level TRs. Then there's another TRs course called Therapeutic TRs that's slightly higher gradient. And then there's the Hubbard Qualified Scientologist course where you do TRs, and that's a slightly higher gradient. And then there's the Professional TRs course, and that's considered the highest gradient. And when you have children doing those TRs, you do end up in a situation where those children are being desensitized and to grooming.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just different when you have adults getting into Scientology and doing the training drills, because children aren't sitting around going, "Oh my God, I have such a problem with communication." Children just want to go play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But when you've got like adults in the real world, communication tends to be something that's kind of an important thing to them. And so I think they put more into and take more out of those drills than children would. And there's no question in my mind that children doing low-level communication drills with other children, I have a hard time calling that like grooming or desensitizing. But when you have children doing professional level TRs, there's no question in my mind that is essentially grooming.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a
Or
harmful
even
way.
having children be like somebody be the bull baiter. Like, I don't know. I'm just picturing my step grandchildren just doing that to each other. I feel like that would just be almost delighting and you know, hurting somebody, but as a game, that just seems weird, you know.
Well, kids already do that in normal life anyway.
I know, but to encourage it, like, here you go, here's your book, and you know, like if you like pat them on the head and charge their parents for it.
But remember, you're not training the kids to be better bull baiters. You're trying. Well, we shouldn't even be talking about kids, but because the truth is, kids shouldn't be doing these courses. But in these drills, you're not trying to learn to be a better bull baiter. You're trying to learn not to react when someone's trying to push your buttons. But again, that's healthier to do as an adult than it is as a child. You know, like if you got a child, like, I don't know, let's talk about this for a little bit. My kids were never really bullied that much that I'm aware of. But like, let's say if I had my, you know, I have 3 kids and they were, you know, they were all much younger at one point. If I had a kid that was relentlessly bullied, would I want them to specifically do a drill where they were practicing not responding to being bullied? I don't know. I'm having trouble deciding whether that would be a good thing or a bad thing. How do you feel about it?
Well, I did all 3 of my kids in some ways were bullied to some capacity. My youngest, he wouldn't mind me saying this, he was born with a cleft lip and palate. And when he was younger, he was bullied pretty bad. Then as he got older, he went to junior high. He gave up soda and Oreos and started going to the gym. And he just started to stand up to bullies. He never, well, no, I won't say that. He did get in a fight, I think twice, but he didn't throw the first punch. I always told him, like, listen, you can stand up to bullies. It's okay. And what he just started doing was when people said, you know, what happened to your lip? He'd be like, oh, you should see the other guy. I got in a bar fight. You know, he's 12 years old. He got in a bar fight. Or he'd be like, oh yeah, I saved my whole platoon in Nam, you know? So like to him, it worked because he's just stopped being bullied. And by the time he was in high school, he knew who he was. And so if anybody messed with him or hit him first, he just hit him back. He did get suspended once. But I think that just having them take it, it almost made it worse. Cause like my daughter, I'd be like, ignore them, mean girls, ignore them. And she internalized a lot of that abuse. So I don't know. You know, that's just something.
Agree. No, I agree with you there. Well, I mean, I actually, looking at it that way, yeah, I would much rather a kid practice how to stand up for themselves and respond than how to not emotionally react. Why should you not emotionally react? I mean, I think we can say, okay, it would be healthier if something didn't crush your soul every time someone said it.
Right.
But I don't know that sitting there and having someone do that to you hour after hour while you're sitting still in a chair is going to bring about that result.
Yeah. And when people say, oh, just ignore them, they'll go away. No, they don't always go away. You know what I mean? So that doesn't necessarily solve all the world's problems, is you being able to take it, you know? Yeah. So yeah.
It's
and
true.
What I think it's funny. It's like, I always say it in the call, it's opposite days. It's opposite day. Every day is opposite day in a call, right? So they're telling you that you're going to get this result, but they're really using it as a tool to be able to control you further, you know? And like somebody said, oh Jesus, there's like 39 things starred, but there was a really good, and there's a lot of really good comments. Oh, and Kelly Copter's weighing in. I gotta
bring up anything you want.
Okay. Somebody said, oh, here it is. Jehovah's Witnesses. As an ex-JW, it was all about sacrificing to make it to paradise at the end of time. So it was like, you know, again, you know, it's hard for me not to bring up the Sea Org because I think I know more about what you all went through in the Sea Org than maybe being a public. But even being a public, like you're giving all this money, you're giving all this time, you're dedicating yourself, you're giving up vacations, like Leah Remini always said, because you want to save the planet. So it's like delayed gratification. You know, so you're putting up with those TRs, you're putting up with sweating your ass off in that sauna for a greater purpose.
Yeah.
So then you feel special, you feel noble, you feel like you're making a sacrifice for a better result, which really
Right.
isn't.
I agree with that. What's interesting is that when you join the Sea Org and you're doing like the Sea Org boot camp, which is the EPF, there's no TRs course. They don't have you do TRs to prepare you for being a good Sea Org member. It's actually not so there the series of courses that you do for your Sea Org boot camp is called the EPF. But after you finish the EPF and you're a Sea Org member, the next series of courses that you do for your basic Sea Org member training is called Product One. There's a whole series of courses. None of them involve doing any TRs.
No, what is EPF? It's not the RPF, it's the EPF. So
the
it's
EPF is the Estates Project Force.
states. Okay.
Isn't it interesting, though, that in the world of Scientology, the TRs are supposed to be the communication drills that allow you to not react and respond to things, and yet it's nothing to do with the Sea Org basic training and basic courses. They just expect you to magically be able to put up with this shit.
Helicopter says learning to have no reaction to being verbally abused is so wrong. It is. Yeah. I mean, and they twist it and say, oh, we're just helping you to be able to not react so it doesn't bother you as much, and because it's going to happen in life. But to artificially make it happen to get you to override your normal instincts and your normal reactions, it's just unnatural.
Yeah. So like, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've spent so much of my life with the idea that there's this virtue, this competence, this ability associated with being able to not emotionally react to something.
That is a good thing.
That it's that it's a little hard for me to separate out some things here.
Well, I'm the wrong person to act because I tend to overreact to talk. I tend to overreact, but to have emotions and to, because they're what they are, right? They're natural. You can't help it, and
Right.
I mean, you can try to stuff it down, but to be able to control it in a healthy way, I think instead of ignoring them is probably the way to go.
Okay, so give me some feedback on this then.
Okay.
What if it's that it doesn't matter? It's okay if it makes you mad and furious and sad, but I guess what you're practicing is not showing it. Is that good?
Well, I think you can show it without having it control you or ruin you, right? So you having tools instead. Okay, so I guess it's more
I
like,
guess without I guess in the purpose of the training routine itself, you would literally not show it. But
right.
in life, it would just be, you could show it, but not in a way where you've lost control.
Right. I mean, instead of denying your feelings, you process them in a healthy way.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yes, but realize these things that we're talking about are talking about in the moment, at the moment, the exact moment when the person is right in front of you. How you feel about it afterwards has nothing to do with whether you kept your TRs in or not.
So you can feel all the feels inside.
Yeah.
You just can't react.
Right.
That sucks because sucks to I mean, I'm not a normie. A lot of people, there's 600 normies in here. I'm not a normie, but to me, that's frustrating to think of even dealing with somebody who practices that, because I'm not going to name any names, and it's not anybody that you think, but some ex-Scientologists just seem to be maybe still practicing that, and it's like,
oh, I know who you're talking about.
Hey,
that's all you had to say.
Hello, yeah, I wrote you an open letter. Do that.
Yeah.
Can you just give me a crumb? Nope.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so frustrating.
Well, it is funny, especially that I'm the one talking about this, and I know I sound like I'm defending it, because I'm extremely emotional. I guess I'm just. Do I sound like I'm defending it?
No, you know what I think of it as is like you were brought up in it, and there's like almost a default switch, which I default to. I think that we as cult, ex cult members, I think it takes the rest of your life to really unravel this stuff, and so there's things about it that like I'm still processing. So I feel like this is healthy. This is something I really wanted to do with you because you have a similar experience but different. So
yeah. Because I think how I feel about it at this point is nobody should do drills like this unless they want to. And I think where things like this become abusive is when you're making people do them. And that's usually when we're talking about kids. There's no kids that are like, Mom, can I please sign up for the communication course? It's Scientology parents thinking they want their kids to be better behaved and to be able to control them better. And they put them on this course. And it's funny because that was my experience as a child. And I know it's one of the reasons I never even had an instinct to put my kids on any Scientology courses ever. And they've never even read a word of L. Ron Hubbard. I don't think they've ever seen a Scientology book.
Thank goodness. Can I read this from I have my lawyer friend, Carrie J. So there. I see your lawyer friend and I raise you a lawyer friend. As a child advocate, I would argue to a court that what Aaron has described as the professional level training routine fits legal definition of child abuse.
I would agree. I would agree. I mean, anyone who would have seen the professional TR's course room at Flag, any child in that environment, any court of law would call that child abuse.
Yeah. And she also says, spoken like a true lawyer, doesn't sound like you're defending it. Sounds like you're examining what you were taught and explaining it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny talking about the communication drills specifically because, back in the day, most people would tell you that the communication drills is what got them into Scientology, is what got them interested in continuing Scientology.
The TRs are part of the communication drills, or they are.
They are.
Okay.
Training routine is a communication drill.
So it says intentional infliction of physical or mental injury, and that's Florida defines child abuse as.
Oh, so even just bull baiting on a child, making them sit there while someone is pushing their buttons, which means trying to emotionally hurt them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well,
I'll tell you what. Let me just say, anytime that you see in these Scientology magazines where you see some 14, 15, 16-year-old child has just finished their class 4 auditor internship, their class 5 internship. They've done hundreds, if not thousands of hours of these TRs, including bull bait. So like Scientology in their own magazines is publishing evidence of child abuse.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah. And we don't know it because it becomes normalized, which is that's the insanity of it. Yeah, Kimberly, why would anyone want to become Tom Cruise? Yeah, and shame on him.
Yeah.
He has to know that this isn't right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The goal is to alienate your daughter, jump on a couch. So what are you thinking now?
So let's see the breaking down, the indoctrination, the building someone's art. I want to talk a little bit about building someone's new artificial cult identity. Have you noticed in life? I've noticed this all the time, and I'm just wondering if you have as well. Where you have some group, and you have someone in the group that is considered. Is it just a Scientology word? An opinion leader of some kind. People in the group will mimic that person's communication patterns, physical gestures, way of speaking, mannerisms. Have you noticed this?
Oh, absolutely. Have you ever met somebody that is like, oh, I found Jesus, and not to pick on people that find Jesus, it's fine. That's fine. But then all of a sudden, like they're starting to act like Jimmy Swaggart or something, or what, whoever they're watching on TV, these mega churches, right? And they're singing all the time and they're like a different person. Absolutely. I've seen that. That's part of the group thing, I think.
Yeah.
When
I was in the Sea Org at ASHO, this young woman named Monet Berenson, Monet Fisher was her maiden name. She was the HCO area secretary. She was over Division 1. And even though she was not a high-ranking Sea Org member, she was one of the most respected people in the org. And she had a whole bunch of young girls working under her who would all adopt her exact same mannerisms. They would all.
I was gonna say, it sounds like junior high. It totally sounds like junior high. Ask your girls. It's something everyone experiences in school. Yeah. Okay. It just reminds me of like Mean Girls or Clueless or one of those like shows that my daughter used to watch.
Okay. So most people have seen this then. And I didn't go to high school, so I didn't see that. When you get into Scientology, that same thing happens. That it becomes there's this like cookie cutter personality that, and I'm sure it's even different at different orgs. But if you've been to Flag, it's very similar. Like everyone in the CLO West US became like Vicky Shantz, who was one of the meanest, nastiest bitches I have ever encountered. Vicky was such a horrible person, but people in the CLO tended to act like Vicky. And people at ASHO tended to act like John Lundeen, and people who worked under Paul Disher tended to act like Paul Disher. And did
any of them throw fax machines? Just asking.
Dan O'Connor
made for a friend.
Lethal with a fax machine. So this new artificial cult identity is interesting because I was never around for the days of L. Ron Hubbard, but I wonder back in those days on the Apollo or at St. Hill, how many people would either try to act like L. Ron Hubbard or act like Mary Sue or act like whoever it is they were closest with in that circle. That absolutely happens in the Sea Org and it happens in Scientology. Oh, I was saying back in the day. Yeah. So I feel like in the Sea Org today or in Scientology today, most people, whether they realize it or not, are trying to act more and more like David Miscavige. Nobody can see what L. Ron Hubbard acted like. But David Miscavige has a very particular way of being and speaking. His Commodore's messengers pretty much all try to act like him. People that work closely with the messengers end up acting like him. And then people who work closely with those people. So it's almost like whether anyone actually knows what David Miscavige acts like or not, the trickle-down effect is such.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Someone said, this is perfect. Swedish Lena, becoming a robot by osmosis. If you notice when you watch and you do the protester streams, I see automatically somehow most of, I won't say all of them, some do interact and engage, but most of them don't. And if they do engage, it's usually some cute girl that comes up and grabs their arm and ushers them into the org, right? So they kind of know, like, not just to ignore you. I mean, are they told to do that, or are they just in their bubble and they know instinctively to do that?
To do what exactly?
To ignore, like to just be like blinders on and completely ignore you. Like putting your TRs in.
I think specifically for the protesters on Hollywood Boulevard, the public in those orgs, that's a unique situation where all of the public in those orgs are already going to be told or briefed as to how to interact with the protesters. It's interesting. I know this wasn't your point, but you mentioned, like, let's say we've seen several times where some Scientologist who I guess hasn't been so indoctrinated yet is sitting there talking with a protester. And another Sea Org member comes up and just grabs them and moves them away, and they no objection whatsoever, right?
Yeah, weird.
This is an interesting point of indoctrination in Scientology about control. And we've only spoken about the TRs from 0 to 4. We haven't spoken about the TRs from 6 to 9, where TRs from 0 to 4 focuses on verbal communication. TRs 6 to 9 focuses on physically controlling people, like literally ordering people around, enforcing it, doing it against their will,
Mhm.
and then commanding people to do things and then making them do things. Like that's TR 6 to 9. So, and one of those TR6 is also called 8C, the letter 8, C is in Charlie, 8C.
Right. You're moving people around.
And you're controlling people around. So one of the points of indoctrination here is not just that it's okay to, push people around, but also that if you have a problem with that, that's because of your reactive mind.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's breaking you down. It is, though. It's desensitizing you. It's getting you to accept somebody touching you that you don't want them. I mean, not in a violent way or a sexual way, but it's like, yeah, that's wrong. It's wrong. It's like you're giving up control over your body and over who touches you, the touch your sis or whatever. They did that in my cult too. It was called laying on of hands. And I had like these sweaty old guys. I mean, I was like, a kid or a teenager or even a young, 20 something. And it was just gross. And they would like push on your forehead and expect you to fall back. I think we talked about this. And if you were lucky, you had an usher to catch you. It was called being slain in the spirit. Now, what is being slain? It means somebody, unalives you, slays you, right? Yeah, that was something that we were expected to accept, and to have people laying hands, praying for you, to be healed, and going, and they're spitting all over you and everything. And you had to just take it because God was maybe going to heal you. It's just, It's gross. It's gross.
Wow. Yeah. That is wild. But you've seen that, right? Where people just walk up and guide you away and they don't even object.
Oh, I'm lying.
She's lying. Fact checker. She's lying.
Fact checker. Must be related to somebody we know. The world's best fact checker.
I got to bring this up. Ken goes, did Aaron just say I'm slow this morning at 1 p.m. Eastern? Legend.
You have no idea, Ken. I'm like, good morning. Wait a minute. What?
I was actually up at 9 or 10.
You were up at 11. I know you texted me back.
Let's see. The cult identity.
That's really interesting. I totally forgot about that physical, what is it called? 8C?
8C control. Yeah. So, it's funny because even from the basic level, there's Dianetics, which talks about the tone scale, and then Science of Survival. I just got it right here because I've been trying to do a video about part of this book, and so it's been sitting here for months because I never get around to doing the video. But this is the biggest book in Scientology on the tone scale, and and also it's one of the earliest books in Scientology, and you can study at one of the lowest levels. The idea that anything below 2.0 on the tone scale is due to your reactive mind, and that the only way to be is above 2.0. Automatically
there's so many, it's crazy how there's so many things that there's volumes and volumes and volumes. This guy was just writing like crazy, but so many different aspects of it, and it almost like confuses you because there's so much. It's overwhelming. So you have to kind of rely on your course director or whatever is telling you what's next, right? And hopefully you have enough money to afford it, because then you get like a carrot on a stick, because it's like, oh, wait till this, wait till the OTs, wait till that. But there's so many different things, and that's why I wanted to kind of start at the very beginning, not now I have that song in my head. The Sound of Music. Start at the very beginning.
All right. Well, let's see. There's a whole bunch of starred comments here. Do we want to go through some of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, there are a lot of questions, but
yeah, just pick a few.
Okay.
I know you got a day. So
I like this one. Freebird 67. Off topic, but the reaction to Mike Brown's video is a resounding applause from so many of us. So much grace shown. Mike Brown is a class act. Yeah, if anyone has not seen 100%. Mike Brown's video last night,
Yes.
clarifying some matters. Apparently, some recollections might be a little different. So I highly recommend watching that video.
It was excellent. I put up one. Step 1, buy a black turtleneck.
Bodil Vant. My impression is that there's almost no love bombing, as in most other cults. I see it just as Aaron says. They, as fast as possible, find out a complex or fear there is already a longing for solving. Yes. You know, the ones in Scientology that really turn on the love bombing are the fundraisers for the IAS. Even more so than the fundraisers for Scientology services. They're the really skilled salespeople, because they're getting you to donate millions of dollars for nothing.
Right. And they just kind of hoard it. Do they buy the buildings with that or no? That's the local people. But what the hell do they do with all that money?
Exactly. What do they do with all that money? There's very key.
They don't even buy toilet paper.
They don't even buy toilet paper.
What the hell? It's so gross.
Some select organizations in like world important cities were allegedly and probably paid for by the IES, like Madrid, New York, San Francisco. I can't remember if Tampa was, but all these other buildings, nope. And that's honestly how you know, if there was ever any question, that David Miscavige does not want to finish the ideal org strategy. Meaning, for him, the strategy is it's a way to make money.
Right.
He doesn't want to finish all the buildings, because if he really wanted to finish all the buildings, the money's already there to do that. He could, and if he thought that the strategy was going to succeed and it was really going to boom Scientology, you would take the money, you would put it into the buildings. The buildings would then give you a massive exponential return on investment, because you'd grow the membership, who would all in turn donate more money. So the fact that the strategy's dragged on for over 20 years now, and it's not even halfway done, when they already have the money in the bank to finish the strategy, it just shows you he doesn't want to finish the strategy.
And is that because he doesn't want to release OT 9 and 10 because it doesn't exist?
Exactly.
So would that make, what's the thing with St. Hill size or something? So if it did invest the money, then he'd have to admit that everything was quote St. Hill size, and he'd have to bring out.
He would have to admit that buying these new buildings did not create St. Hill size orgs.
Oh, okay.
And that would admit his whole strategy was a failure. So now you can already go into the buildings that have been opened and see that they're not St. Hill size. So it already is a failure.
St. Hill size meaning they're filled, not meaning they're big. Because we all know they're cavernous.
That's right. St. Hill size means you're got a certain amount of public in there every week. You're delivering a certain amount of hours of auditing every week. You're making a certain amount of money every week. And some of the biggest so-called most successful orgs in the world are making less than $1,000 a week. Yeah. Believe it or not.
And if anyone's inclined to think, well, this whole Scientology movement is a failure because, they haven't lost their tax exempt. Well, at least they're not growing. We know they're shrinking. So I think that's encouragement right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Congress's job or the IRS's job to get rid of the tax exempt status, not our job. But we can keep people from joining, and we can help people who are leaving. And I think
absolutely. And congratulations on your tax exempt status.
Thank you very much.
I'm very excited about that. Totally made my day.
Mark Turry is in the chat. Good to see you, Mark.
Love you, Mark.
I did my first 2 years in Division 6, and it certainly was better than the Academy. I hated the Academy.
His story is so fascinating. He was in for like 3 years, but he did like a whole lifetime of took a whole lifetime of abuse, that guy. And he's super brilliant.
Yeah. One of the guys that my viewers have seen in my chat a lot, named James Hunsinger, was the Div 6 core supervisor at the Philadelphia org for the last couple of years that I was there. And he doesn't really want to talk about his time in Scientology publicly, but one of these days I'm hoping I can get him to do so, because he's got some great stories.
Awesome.
Kate Murphy says L. Ron Hubbard totally failed on the reincarnation thing. All he had to do was come back. All L. Ron Hubbard has to do is come back, document it, prove it, and the whole world would have joined Scientology.
Exactly.
Yep. That's how you know it's not true, guys. It's not true. Oh, Ren Listen sends, so the orange lady with the freaky smile and the Xenu eyes was love bombing Aaron. Oh, this is when I went into the Bel Air mission.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
she was
saw
trying
her.
to love bomb me to get me out the door.
Right.
All right, we've got George Massey here. To me, the whole aim of Scientology
George.
training from TRs 0 to 8 is to strip away all emotions. Oh, from the TRs to OT8 is to strip away all emotions. In other words, strip away people's humanity.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Unfreezing, changing, doing the, change-a-roo, and then refreezing you into what they want you to be.
Yeah. Baby girl says this is a good informative live stream.
Thank you, baby girl.
Thank you.
That's what I call my daughter. She's 26.
Lydia Von Stretchclaw. Good to see you, Lydia. Don't be fooled. Many people get their insecurities, wants, and desires weaponized. Oh, she's responding to somebody here. I see.
Good point, though.
Nikki Lynn says, I'm so grateful I know better because I've always been a seeker with an open mind, and I'm so grateful that I never stumbled upon this. Yeah. Tim Greenglass, I think Hubbard wanted to create his own little army of automatons, ready to love or hate at his whim. I think that's true.
Yeah. Very good. Well said.
Yulan. It seems to me that L. Ron Hubbard took truths from different disciplines and put his own spin on it. Tori said the same in an interview.
Yep.
Yeah. Pink Skies, I think they are taking the humanity out of people in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Overriding your natural instincts. Yeah.
Granny says, keeping your feelings inside. Isn't that how we socialized our boys in the past? Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Literally Lisa from H-Town. What do you think H-Town is?
I don't know. Ask the chat.
Harrisburg or Hamburg? What's H-Town, you guys? Let us know.
I know P-Town is Provincetown on the Cape. That's all I know.
Showing no reaction is totally a Scientology thing and is perceived as strong for them. In the real world, it's called gaslighting. That's not what gaslighting means.
No, I don't think so.
Let me see.
No.
Define gaslighting. To manipulate someone using psychological methods into questioning their own sanity. Or powers of reasoning.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Literally from H-Town. Oh, I think I'm wrong about being gaslighting.
Okay. Disassociate. Yes. Disassociate.
I think it's more training someone to disassociate. Okay, good. Yep. I don't feel bad for saying that it was wrong. Just a Northern girl. This right here, folks, is why I love watching Aaron and Marilyn. The information is vast. The questions are as insightful as the answers. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a nice compliment.
Urinal Cake says Christian Bale based Patrick Bateman in American Psycho off of Tom Cruise. I've heard that. And every time I hear this, it makes me want to go back and watch American Psycho.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has actually said that he based that character's persona and like I forget how he described it. He said just nothing behind the eyes.
Right.
You know, like this fake enthusiasm, but nothing behind the eyes off of Tom Cruise.
I gotta watch that one.
Alan Ballantyne gifted Marilyn 5 memberships.
Okay, so I gotta do my little thing. Yes, and then you gotta sing, "It's raining cups, hallelujah, it's raining cups, amen." You gotta come out with something like that.
George Massey says, the war is over stream had me clutching my pearls so tight, they snapped. We call that a pearl snappy.
A snappy pearl.
All right. Well, how about we cut it there for this one?
Yeah, this is great.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Let's do this again soon. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you, as always, to everyone who watches until the very end. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.
Bye.